Today I'm out in Arizona where I have apparently brought the rain with me to take a look at the new 2023 Hyundai IONIQ 6. This is one of the most efficient and one of the longest range EVs you can buy in North America. Actually, when it comes to efficiency, this ties with the considerably more expensive Lucid Air on the efficiency side and will get you up to 361 miles of all-electric range. It will start at $41,600, but of course if you want that 361 miles, you're going to be paying a bit more, about $45,500. Let's talk about the main things to know and why you should check out the full video. First thing to know, obviously, it is very rainy out here, so if you hear what sounds like static, that's actually just rain hitting my microphone. This is the most controversial angle on the IONIQ 6. It definitely has sort of a Porsche whale tail thing going on back here, mixed with a little bit of Mercedes-Benz CLS. According to Hyundai, this was unavoidable just because of the aerodynamic realities of making a vehicle this slippery. It does have a 0.22 coefficient of drag, which is among the best in North America. And they've also styled it to really mimic that curve that we find essential on the front. The front end is very different than the IONIQ 5. Hyundai said they didn't want everything to look like Russian nesting dolls like we certainly find at some of the German luxury brands, so they wanted this to look distinctive. Key things to know up here, we have full LED headlights, matrix style turn signals right there, and these are active grille shutters, but they're open to the outside, so they definitely give it a unique look as far as that design goes. In terms of size, this is about 191 inches long, so think approximately mid-size sedan-ish in the United States. It's definitely longer than the Polestar 2 or the Tesla Model 3, which are direct competitors to this, and the big advantage is going to be right back here in the rear passenger area, where we certainly get more room. The disadvantage to this profile is going to be found back here in the cargo area, where we do find a smaller trunk versus the Model 3, or perhaps the Polestar 2, although I think some of those numbers that Hyundai was giving us are a little bit off because the Polestar 2's trunk feels very, very small. Hyundai has made the IONIQ 6 lineup pretty darn comprehensive and a little bit confusing as a result. There are 5 different range figures depending on the trim level you get. 3 different horsepower figures from the optional dual motor all-wheel drive system or a single motor in the back. The base price, $41,600, gives you a single rear electric motor, 149 horsepower, 0 to 60 around maybe 8.9 seconds, somewhere around there, and 240 miles of range. From that point, you bump up into the extended range battery pack for $45,500. That's just over 77 kilowatt hours. You'll get 225 horsepower, 361 miles of range. If you want the dual motor setup, which adds a smaller electric motor up front, that's going to be a minimum of $49,000 plus destination. That will give you 320 horsepower, 316 miles of range. From that point, we start stepping into the different trim levels. SEL rear-wheel drive with the big battery pack, because of the wider and grippier tires, drops you from 361 miles of range down to 305. And if you choose the SEL or the limited all-wheel drive trims for the same sort of reason, this goes from 316 all the way down to 270 miles of range. So if you want the most range, you're going to want the lower end trims and you're really going to want rear-wheel drive. But if you want the most fun, clearly you're going to want the limited all-wheel drive. On the inside, Hyundai decided that this didn't need to look exactly the same as the IONIQ 5, even though obviously it is somewhat similar. We have a very similar steering wheel with the 5 dots there on the steering wheel airbag cover. That's meant to represent H in Morse code, but they're illuminated in this model and they're not in the IONIQ 5. The LCD instrument cluster and that large infotainment system are standard, basically the same as the IONIQ 5, as are those climate controls below, but the rest of the dashboard design is definitely uniquely IONIQ 6, as is the door design, which is very thin, very lightweight, and you can see the ambient lighting strip right there. You'll also notice no buttons on the door. That's because they're all over here in the center console. The wings on the side of the dashboard components, those are there because in some world markets, this has digital side view mirrors, basically cameras, and LCDs on the inside. Those are not allowed in the United States, so here it's just a blank wing. In the center console, we have those gray buttons. I love the fact that Hyundai has matched the color to this interior. You can also get a charcoal interior if you'd rather. 2 decently sized cup holders, Qi wireless charging mat there. And if you're wondering where things like the mirror controls are, those are to the left of the steering column. The front seats have a similar sort of trumpet-style headrest that we've seen in a few other Hyundai and Kia models for a while. This model has the up-level interior with perforated seats. These are both heated and ventilated up front. The rear seats, on the other hand, those aren't heated. We have a flat floor right there, air vents for the rear passengers, USB-C charge ports, and then if we move on over to the doors, you notice we have window switches for the rear windows, not somewhere out in the center. They're actually on the doors themselves. Small storage pocket right there, larger storage pocket below. Be sure and let me know what you think of the IONIQ 6. Is it interesting to you? Would you rather get the IONIQ 5, an EV6, maybe a Genesis GV60, because they're all on this related platform? And there are certainly pros and cons to each of these formats. I think actually Hyundai has done us a really great service by creating so many different vehicles with the exact same drivetrain components. You can really tell what affects efficiency and how. The boxier profile we find in the IONIQ 5 drastically drops its highway range down. This really slippery profile might offend some people's aesthetic sensibilities with this multiple spoiler thing going on back here, and definitely an homage to Porsche's design, but it's really going to give you the range that a lot of folks are interested in. And any way you slice it, all of the IONIQ platform vehicles are going to have really, really fast charge times. So even though a lower range IONIQ 5 might have less than 250 miles of real-world range, it might actually take less time than a decent number of other EVs to go on a road trip, because you'd only need to spend maybe 20 minutes at a DC fast charge station instead of 45 minutes in one of the competitors. And even if you needed to stop a second time, you're still actually probably stopping for total less time than in some of those other competitors. And a lot of that reigns right down to this IONIQ 6, where you'll get 361 miles of range, theoretically. 45 minutes later, you could get another 361 miles of range. And as far as the competition goes, you're really looking at something very expensive like a Lucid Air to be able to have that kind of quick charging turnaround, this kind of efficiency, and this kind of range, everything combined all in one. You will find over 350 miles of range in the Tesla lineup, but Teslas don't charge this rapidly, interestingly enough. And the models majority that give you that 350 miles of range, generally speaking, are going to cost more than this as well. What exactly the Model 3 long range ends up when it comes out as far as pricing, that's really going to be the mystery in this segment. Tesla's been very aggressive lately with their pricing. That model should get over 350 miles of range. It's probably also going to be really darn fast, so probably faster than this 320 horsepower model, and the price tag could be less than this. That's certainly what we've seen lately from Tesla. So keep all that in mind. Let me know what you think about that down there in the comment section below. I'll see all of you later.